Hello, family. Welcome to Value Addition. So, in today's episode, we're going to be reviewing a book called Introduction to E-Commerce, Combining Business and Information Technology by Martin Kütz. So, let's quickly look at the table of contents of the book. Basics and definition. Number 2, frameworks and architectures. Number 3, B2C business. Number 4, B2B business. Number 5, impact of e-commerce. Number 6, security and compliance management. Number 7, electronic payment. Number 8, performance management. Number 9, advices for exercises.
Hello guys, it's Michaela here. So let's talk about basics and definition. So Mike, tell me, how do you define basics and definitions to someone who has no idea about e-commerce?
Okay, thank you for the question, Michaela. So, according to the book Introduction to E-Commerce, it states clearly that e-commerce, that's electronic commerce, commonly written as e-commerce, is the trading in products and services using computer networks such as the internet. Electronic commerce draws on technologies such as mobile commerce, electronic funds transfer, supply chain management, internet marketing, online transaction processing, electronic data interchange into brackets EDI, inventory management systems, and automated data collection systems. Modern electronic commerce typically uses the World Wide Web that for at least one part of the transaction's life cycle, although it may also use other technologies such as email. So as you can tell from the book, Michaela, e-commerce primarily to somebody who doesn't understand e-commerce has to do with buying or selling of products and services. That's basically what e-commerce primarily is about. E-commerce is primarily about transaction of goods or services or product or services or buying and selling online, which has to do with goods and services. So that's what it says from the book Introduction to E-commerce. Additionally, it also says that e-commerce businesses may employ some or all of the following: online shopping websites for retail sales direct to customers, providing or participating in online marketplaces which process third-party business to consumer or consumer to consumer sales. Thirdly, business to business buying or selling, just like I stated early on, gathering and using demographic data through web contact and social media. Number 5, business to business electronic data interchange. Number 6, marketing to prospective and established customers by email or fax, for example, with newsletters, engaging in pre-tail for launch for new products and services. Someone might be confused and might be asking, what's the meaning of pre-tail? So, pre-tail, according to the book, is referred to as a subcategory of e-commerce and online retail for introducing new products, services, and brands to market by pre-launching online, sometimes as reservations in limited quality. Realization of commercial availability. Pre-tail includes pre-sale commerce, pre-order retailers, in combination marketplaces, and crowdfunding. So yeah, basically e-commerce tells you any transaction, whether you want to buy or sell online, can be termed as e-commerce. So I hope that answers your question, Michaela.
Yes, it does. Thank you. I think a lot of people feel e-commerce is difficult.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michaela. As you asked, a lot of people don't really, think e-commerce is something easy to do. A lot of people think it's difficult. So based on that, I have a video on the page That's five important things to consider before starting an e-commerce business. So anybody who is finding difficulty in setting up their e-commerce store, or there's certain information they need before they start their e-commerce, they can kindly check out that video.
All right, Mike. So let's talk about the term e-business in the book. What does it talk about?
Okay, thank you for your question. So according to the book, which is Introduction to E-commerce, it says e-business, electronic business, or e-business is an application of information and communication technologies in support of all the activities of business. Commerce constitutes the exchange of products and services between businesses, groups, and individuals, and can be seen as one of the essential activities of any business. Electronic commerce focuses on the use of ICT to enable the external activities and relationship of the business with individuals, groups, and other businesses. Or e-business refers to the business with help of internet, i.e., doing business with the help of the internet network. So that's what it says. That's a pretty simplified, definition that I hope many people would understand.
All right, Mike. So let's talk about digital economy.
Okay. All right. So digital economy, from my understanding, refers to an economy that is substantially based on computing technologies. The digital economy is also sometimes called the internet economy, the, the new economy, or the web economy. Increasingly, digital economy is intertwined with the traditional economy. Alternatively, digital economy can be defined as the worldwide network of economic activities, commercial transactions and professional interactions that are enabled by information and communication technologies. So that's also my second understanding of a digital economy.
Okay, so Mike, let's talk about digitalization of business.
Okay, so digitizing business. Alrighty. Okay, so per the book, it says here that the means of comprehensive usage of ICT, that's information and communication technology, not only within a business organization, as it has been done during the last decades by traditional information systems, but now through a more and more seamless linking and cooperation of information and communication system of all involved business partners. The comprehensive usage of ICT has been enabled by some technologies and technical standards which have been accepted globally. So personally, my my understanding of digitized business is this. So this involves the conversion of analog information to digital form with suitable electronic devices so that that particular information can be processed, stored, sometimes transmitted through digital circuits, equipment, and networks. So primarily it says that, any business that's off the internet or is off electronic devices are going to be on the internet, are going to be on electronic devices, which has to do with advancement in new technologies. So digitalized business is moving your business from an analog or old way of doing things to a new form of innovative technologies.
So next, Mike, let's talk about e-commerce with the 5C model.
Okay, that's cool. So from the book Introduction to E-commerce, it says here that another approach to define and explain what the e-commerce is comes from the so-called 5C model, into brackets ZWAS 2014. It defines e-commerce by five activity domains whose dominations start with the letter C. So, number one, it talks about commerce. In the electronic marketplaces, there is a matching of customers and suppliers and establishing of the transaction terms and the facilitation of exchange transaction. With a broad move to the web-enabled enterprise system, relatively uniform capabilities as compared to the legacy system, a universal supply chain linkage has been created. The second C in 5C is collaboration. The web is a vast nexus or network of relationships among firms and individuals. More or less formal collaborations are created or emerged on the web to bring together individuals engaged in knowledge, work in a manner that limits the constraints of space, time, national boundaries, and organizational affiliations. The third C in the 5C models has to do with communication. As an interactive medium, the web has given rise to a multiplicity of media products. This universal medium has become a forum for self expression and self presentation. The rapidly growing m-commerce enables connectivity in context with location sensitive products and advertising. So somebody's probably going to ask, what is m-commerce? M-commerce is a commercial transaction conducted electronically by mobile phone. So that's what m-commerce means. So the next has to do with connection. Common software development platforms, many of them in the open source domain, enable a wide spectrum of firms to avail themselves of the benefits of the already developed software, which is moreover compatible with that of their trading and collaborating partners. The internet as a network of networks that is easy to join in, out of which is relatively easy to carve out virtual private networks, is the universal telecommunications network now widely expanding in the mobile domain. The next C has to do with computation. Internet infrastructure enables large scale sharing of computational and storage resources, thus leading to the implementation of the decades old idea of utility computing.
So, Mike, what's your take on e-government or electronic government?
Okay, thank you, Michaela. So, my take on e-government, let's first of all talk about that of the book, then I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you my personal take.
Okay.
So, according to the book Introduction to E-commerce, the big encyclopedia Wikipedia says e-government, short form of electronic government, also known as e-gov, internet government, digital government, online government, connected government, consists of the digital interactions between citizens and their government, between government and government agencies, between government and citizens, between government and employees, and between government and business or commerce. The digital interaction includes all level of government, that's city, state, province, national, international, governance, information and communication technology, and business process re-engineering. So that's what the book Introduction to E-commerce defines as e-government. Let me kindly give you my take on e-government. So personally, I believe e-government is the application of ICT or information technology, to primarily govern functions and procedures with the purpose of increasing efficiency, transparency, and citizen participation. Anything that government has to do, incorporating technologies into it, I believe is what can be termed as e-government. So whether be it taxes, be it any facilitation that the government wants to do whatsoever in government business, be it from the presidency, from the judiciary, from the um, different arms of government, provided it includes innovative and new technologies, it can be termed as e-government.
So, Mike, what about e-administration, like electronic administration?
Okay. So, according to the book, Action to E-commerce, it defines e-administration or electronic administration as those mechanisms which converts the paper process in a traditional office into electronic processes with the goal to create a paperless office. Its objective is to get total transparency and accountability within an organization. So, with this, I'm also going to give you my personal take on e administration. E administration or electronic administration refers to any of a number, or mechanisms which convert a traditional office into an electronic office. So, in the past, we have like when you go to administrative places, you see a lot of paperwork and all that. So, changing that paperwork to a more electronic kind of work is basically what e-administration, I believe, is.
So, Mike, what's your take on e-democracy as an electronic democracy?
Okay, thank you, Michaela. So, according to the book Introduction to E-commerce, E-democracy incorporates 21st century information and communications technology to promote democracy. This means a form of government in which all adult citizens are presumed to be eligible to participate equally in the proposal, development, and creation of laws. So, this is my personal take on it. E democracy, also known as digital democracy, you know, or internet democracy, whichever way you would like to put it respectfully, is the use of ICT, you know, in political and the governance process. You know, like in the past, governments used analog in, ruling in the ruling process. And democracy in this new innovative times involves using ICT, in the governance process. So that's my personal understanding of e-democracy. I hope it answers your question, Michaela.
It does.
Okay,
Thank you.
so let's move to the next one, Michaela.
So, Mike, let's talk about business models related to e-commerce.
Okay, so according to the book Introduction to E-commerce, it says e-commerce actors cooperate with those firms and the use of them as specific service providers. So with service providers, we're going to be talking about access provider. The access provider ensures access to the internet. We should have in mind that somebody has to pay the access provider so that we can get access to the internet. Who pays? We or somebody else? In many times or in many areas of the world, it is a total privatized business through some though sometimes in the political arena the access to the internet is declared as a modern human right. Obviously, there is a similarity to telephone network. However, it normally works in this privatized form. Traditional business models, which are somehow similar to the business of an access provider, are operators of technical infrastructure, example, telephone networks, car highways, or railways. So yeah, we can move forward and talk about search engine. Search engines are the most used software in the internet. They are the starting step for many internet-based activities, not only, but also, of course, if somebody is looking for a business opportunity, again, we must ask who pays? The one who wants to find something or someone, or the one who wants to be found. So, yeah, and we can just top it off with online shop. An online shop is a website where you can buy products or services, example, books or office supplies.
All right, Mike. So let's talk about social networking service.
Okay. So, with social networking services, according to Introduction to E-commerce, says a social networking service, also social networking site or SNS, is a platform to build social networks or social relations among people who share similar interests, activities, backgrounds, or real life connection. An SNS consists of a representation of each user, often a profile, his or her social links, and a variety of additional services as career services. SNS are web-based services that allows individuals to create a public profile, create a list of users with whom to share connections with. Sometimes it goes on to talk about online communities. An online community is a virtual community whose members interact with each other primarily via the internet. Those who wish to be a part of the online community usually have to be a member via specific sites and necessarily need internet connection. An online community can act as an information service where members can post, comment, or discuss, give advice, or collaborate. So, in that light, kindly subscribe, share, and comment your thoughts on this tutorial so far and on this review. Tell me what you guys think. I hope everybody's doing great. Okay.
All right, Mike. So, what's your take on technical and economic challenges?
Okay. So, technical and economic challenges, according to Introduction to E-commerce, says ICT systems have to work properly, not only within the boundaries of the organization, but also in the combination with ICT systems of other organizations. Interfaces between the involved system have to be defined and documented properly, but how do heterogeneous are the involved ICT systems allowed to be? Is it our IT infrastructure fit for e-commerce? How do we have to change or extend our application systems for e-commerce? In the digital business, ICT systems are mission and critical assets. How do we have to protect an ICT system so that it is not possible to destroy it? Are ICT systems secure? Are authorized persons be able to access our systems? Are payment procedures secure enough? Can we protect the personal data of involved people, especially customer data? So, economic challenges is not only a matter of technology, it is primarily because of its commerce, a matter of management and organization. The following questions have to be answered. Are our business processes standardized enough, at least harmonized among the participants? Who is allowed to participate? Are all participants trustworthy? Who makes the decision which person or organization is allowed to participate? How much e-commerce do we need to keep it competitive? How do we have to change our business model? What is going to happen after opening a new electronic sales channel? Will traditional sales channels suffer from it? How can we measure the success of e-commerce activities? Will costs be compensated through revenues? Will we make profits? How do we have to develop our relationship with customers, suppliers, and other business partners to be able to realize the advantages of e-commerce for our organization and avoid its disadvantages? How do we have to develop and change our business relationships? How do we have to redesign our business processes? How do the role of our employees change? Are employees qualified for these new roles? So these are some questions that need answers to in e-commerce businesses. Moving forward, we can also talk about frameworks and architectures. What are the main actors and stakeholders in the area of e-commerce? Actors and stakeholders. E commerce is driven by different groups of actors and stakeholders. First, we have personas, obviously C, where C stands for potential consumers or citizens according to the specific text, which can be considered Secondly, we have business organization, abbreviated as B, which stands for producers and suppliers, trade organization or merchants, banks, insurance companies, or other financial service providers, logistics and transportation firms, or forwarding agencies, and last but not least, several intermediaries making business with and on the internet. Thirdly, we have governmental authorities abbreviated as G or A, where A stands for administration and G stands for government. This category includes authorities. We can also see political parties, lobby organizations, press and media, non governmental organizations like Greenpeace, Red Cross, and Olympic Committee, churches and religious organizations, sports, and other associations. Next up, we can look at fundamental sales process. As we are discussing e-commerce, we have to know in details what is going on in the e-commerce transactions. Thus, we have to consider the basics and fundamental sales process. The process describes the general pattern of making business in delivering goods or providing services and getting payment for this. Here, we can differentiate as we generally and due to Porter's value chain, do it in a process management between the primary or kernel process and secondary or supporting process. Let's look at HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTTP functions as a request response protocol in the client server computing model. A web browser, for example, may be the client in an application running on a computer. Hosting a website may be the server. The client submits an HTTP request message to the server which provides resources such as HTML files and other content, or performs other functions on behalf of the client, returns a response message to the client. The response contains completion status and in its message body. HTTP is a stateless protocol. A stateless protocol does not require the HTTP server to retain information or status about each user for the duration of multiple requests. However, some web application implement state or server side sessions using, for instance, HTTP cookies or hidden variables within web forms. Let's look at FTP, which stands for File Transfer Protocol. So the FTP is a standard network protocol used to transfer computer files from one host to another over a TCP-based network such as the internet. FTP is built on the client-server architecture and uses separate control and data connections between the client and the server. FTP is documented in RFC 959. Let's talk about SMTP, that is a simple mail transfer protocol. The SMTP is an internet standard for electronic mail transmission, first defined by RFC 821 in 1982. It was later updated in 2008 with the extended SMTP additions by RFS 5321, which is a protocol in widespread usage today. So these are some certain terms which are in computing or software programming that has to do with e-commerce. Although electronic mail servers and other mail transfer agents use SMTP to send and receive mail messages, user level client mail applications typically use SMTP only for sending messages to a mail server for relaying. For receiving messages, client applications usually use either POP3 or IMAP. Although proprietary systems such as Microsoft Exchange and IBM Notes and webmail systems such as Outlook.com, Gmail, and Yahoo Mail use their own non-standard protocols to access mailbox accounts on their own mail servers all use SMTP when sending or receiving email from outside their own systems. Let's talk a little bit about the World Wide Web. That's www. www is an open source information space where documents and other web resources are identified by URLs, uniform resource locator, interlinked by hyperlink text, and can be accessed via the internet. It has become known as the www primarily. Let's talk a little bit about GSM. GSM is a global system for mobile communication. Originally, Group Special Mobile is a standard developed by the European Technology Standard Institute to describe protocols for second generation 2G digital cellular networks used by the mobile phones. It is a de facto global standard for mobile communications with over 90% market share, and it's available in over 219 countries and territories. Let's talk a little bit about Edge. Edge is a digital mobile phone technology allows improved data transmission rates as a backward compatible extension of the GMS, which is the global system for mobile communication, through the introduction of sophisticated methods of coding and transmitting data. Edge delivers high bit rates per radio channel, resulting in a threefold increase in capacity and performance compared with an ordinary ASM or GPRS. As an e-commerce store owner, it's very important to know a bit about B2C business. Let's talk about the process and its variants. In the B2C business, normally, the selling partner is a business organization, but this is not a must. Normally, the buying partner is a single person, but this is also not a must. So, B2C is a synonym for the selling process considered from the point of view of the supplier. Buying via internet. First, let us naively consider what is going on if we buy something via the internet. The process starts when the customer generates an order via an online shop or e-commerce shop. The order is processed at the back end ERP system as a sales order, and all order products and components are verified. If components are available in the quantity which the customer has ordered, products can be delivered to the customer's location and at the point of time which is convenient for the customer. After the verification and processing of the order continues in preparation, that the order for packing and shipping also preparing for its billing, the customer gets an acknowledgement of his order. Customer and the order data are available via a portal solution to all stakeholders.
All right, so Mike, I'm seeing cookies. Is it the cookies that we eat, or this like I've been seeing online cookies? I thought maybe is the cookies for snacks or
No, it's not. It's not the cookies that we eat. So cookies, according to Introduction to E-commerce, are tokens or short packets of data processed between communication programs where the data is typically not meaningful to the recipient program. The contents are opaque and not usually interrupted until the recipient passes the cookie data back to the sender or perhaps another program at a later time. Cookies allow detailed access statistics. However, the user must be able to switch cookies off due to definition of IETF. Profiles are explicitly provided by the customer. Profiles can also be deducted from the customer's behavior or in the cookies. So, a little information about cookies from introduction to e commerce: duration and cost of session, transaction data, hits, that's HTTP access, page impressions, click streams, ad clicks, content of shopping baskets, dispatch queries. So that's what it says about cookies from the book Introduction to E-commerce. These are used to identify specific users and improve your web browsing experience. Primarily cookies make your time online a better time. It kind of like streamlines or makes your online browsing experience better. So that's why you see cookies and all of that.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Oh, I now get it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not the cookie that you've been buying all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike, what about the recommendation engines? What does it mean?
Okay, so according to Introduction to E-commerce, that's the book we're reviewing.
Sure.
Recommendation engines are software systems which analyze what the customer has purchased or checked. From the behavior, they make conclusions what the customer could be interested in, and he or she visits the online shop or the e-commerce business for the next time. Good recommendation engines are learning systems. The longer they monitor the customer, the better they can predict the customer's wishes and interest. Well, another approach to systematically building customer profiles is to run a CRM system. A CRM system is primarily, a customer relationship management. Here, a supplier puts together all information about his customers and manages the results customer profiles. Also, online communities can be a place where customers allow deep insights into their thinking, their preference, and their aversions. A lot of suppliers have established such online communities where customers can become a member, get privileged information, and can place their comments and judgments. Sometimes those communities take a fee for the membership, thus establishing an aura of exclusivity. So what I understand from this is that sometimes the way um online merchants or e-commerce business owners can have a relationship with their customers or consumers, you know when someone buys from you, usually you want the person to come back to your shop, okay, or to your e-commerce business. So you tend to have a loyalty program. You tend to put in measures where the person is going to keep coming back. That's going to increase customer retention. So some of these things are, give them freebies, give them something, invite them to exclusive events, make them feel special. You know, right after they buying from you, you let them know that okay, since you want them to be buying over and over again from you, you need to put in measures that's going to make them come back to
Exactly.
buy from you. So this is what I believe the book is talking about, and that's just my humble opinion. So in one of my videos, you can look at, you know, 5 ways to reduce cart abandonment. It talks about how your customers can keep coming back to your e-commerce business. So,
All right. Okay, so thank you.
okay, all right.
All right, so Mike, let's talk about the global trade item number. What does it mean?
Okay. So, according to the book that we're reviewing, the global trade item number is an identifier developed by the GS1, a neutral, non-profit international organization that develops and maintains standards for supply and demand chains across multiple sectors, comprising amongst of the former EAN International and Uniform Code Council. Such identifiers are used to look up product information in a database, often by entering the number through a barcode scanner pointed at an actual product, which may belong to a retailer, manufacturer, collector, researcher, or other entity. The uniqueness and universality of the identifier useful in establishing which product in one database corresponds to which product in another database, especially across organizational boundaries. So the GTIS contained in the GS1 128, an application standard within the code 128 barcode. It identifies data with application identifiers, which is AI, and it is a universal identification system in logistics. So let's talk about initial steps, some initial steps in e-commerce. So according to the introduction to e-commerce book, when a customer and supplier at the end of the information step know that they want to conduct a business transaction together, then they initiate it according to the specific nature of the goods to be sold, respectively. If standardized products without individual offers are sold, then an electronic shopping cart is provided. The customer picks up interesting products or services and puts them in his or her shopping cart. He or she removes products or services which are not interesting for him or her. The financial volume is always transparent so that he or she knows at the time how much he would or she would have paid if they decided to buy the actual contents of the shopping cart. The customer is able to order or abort every time. If goods or services have to be personalized, then it is done via request and offers. The online or e-commerce shop has to provide an appropriate functionality to run this dialogue between suppliers and customers. That also talks about one video I did that has to do with the best ways to write a product description. Like I said early on in one of my videos, in writing your product description, you always have to appeal to the emotions and to connect with potential customers on an emotion that's gonna trigger, a decision to buy from you. So let's look at contract conclusion step. At the end, both the supplier as well as the customer have to sign a contract. Initially, all relevant data have to be put together. The customer has to be identified and his or her name and the contact data have to be documented. Then invoicing address, delivery address, and payment data must be selected. If the customer has previously bought from the supplier, then these data may be available in the supplier's customer database or CRM system. However, the customer must be able to change or extend these data with every order. Then specific order data like preferred delivery time and notification method have to be registered. Of course, the shopping cart content is fixed with defining the order. The request of the customer to buy something from the supplier must be answered by the supplier. He or she will run a solvency check, either based on his or her own customer profile data, or sometimes by sending a request to a specific financial information service provider. At the end, he or she accepts or refuses the order and sends a confirmation note to the customer. Normally, the customer expects that this is conducted within seconds or even parts of a second, but effort and duration of such checks may depend on the ordered goods or services. One severe problem for many online shops are the so-called junk orders, where people order things just for fun and never plan to accept delivery and pay for the delivered goods. Suppliers will try to find out whether there's a risk of a junk ordering by checking the previous behavior of the customer. In the case of digital goods, the process may be designed such that the, the digital goods can be downloaded to the customer's client, but not used until a specific key is provided to the customer. This key will be sent to the user when the supplier is sure that the customer has paid or will pay. Let's talk a little bit about delivery or fulfillment step. If real goods have been sold, Then the contract between suppliers and customers is followed by the compilation of the ordered goods. If goods are not in stock of the online shop, they have to be ordered at the producer, and either they can be taken from the producer's warehouse or they have to be produced. When the ordered goods are available, they must be consigned, packed, and forwarded to transportation. Now, the delivery can be made directly to the customer's address or to a station. Example, an authorized retail shop or e-commerce in the customer's neighborhood or to another home address if we are in an omnibus buying where an agent orders for his friends, colleagues, or neighbors. At the end of the shipment, the package with the ordered goods has to be physically given to the customer because the customer is not always at home or in his office. The delivery time must be coordinated. When this time has come, the shipping company will be on site and transfer the goods to the customer. The customer will then confirm the delivery and he or she has taken over the goods in his or her responsibility. Sometimes the delivery will not be possible. It may be that the consumer is not on site, whether he has forgotten the delivery time or had to change his schedule short term and was not able to inform the shipping agent. It may be that the acceptance is refused. Example, because of transportation damages or delivery of the delivery has been initiated by a junk order. Depending on the nature of the ordered goods, an installation or assembly will be necessary at the customer's site. If complex or technical equipment is delivered, an instruction of the customer's representative has to be conducted. Finally, old equipment has to be removed and packaging material has to be disposed. We can talk about the process step is finished with the confirmation of the delivery by the customer. If services have been ordered, the process has to be modified. The reason is that the customer is an active part of the service production. The service production equipment must be provided and be shipped to the location of service delivery or service production. Also, the time of service delivery must be determined. The process step finishes again with a confirmation of the service delivery. If digital goods have been ordered, documents will often be delivered due to the push principle. The ordered document is sent to the customer. If a right has been sold, then the delivery mostly is conducted due to the pull principle. That is, the customer has to download software or a key or whatever he or she needs to realize the benefits of the purchase. The digital goods to the customer is closed with a proof of delivery. In the case of digital products, the delivery process can be completed, digitalized, and processed with the internet. Finally, also in the variant, the process setup is finished with the confirmation of delivery by the customer. They may be integrated into the proof of delivery. Let's look at billing and invoicing step. After the confirmation of delivery, the billing and invoicing step can be started. If the customer had to pay for delivery, then it may happen that the invoice has to be corrected and a credit note if the value of the delivered goods was lower than the value of the originally ordered goods, or debited note if the value of the delivered goods was higher than the value of the originally ordered goods must be created. Customers do not like additional charges, so the customer relationship management has to think of appropriate charging strategies. If the customer has not paid before delivery, then the ideal situation is the identity of delivery and order. If there's a deviation from other or adjusted invoice, it has to be created. Here, we also have the problem of the customer's acceptance in case of higher invoice amounts. The supplier should carefully consider the process and optimization that is expected in terms of invoice total, which is exceeded only in few cases. Let's talk about billing. Billing seems to be simple, but of course it's not. Tax regulation have to be followed. It also turns out that cost of paper invoices are alarmingly high. Paper envelopes, stamps, processing costs, they cost a lot. So primarily we're talking about, some of the processes, you know, and from the time your customer sees your product till the time your customer makes a final purchase. So that's primarily sales funnel from the book Introduction to E-commerce. All right, let's continue. If the supplier wants to create an electronic invoice, he has to be sure that the lawfulness of electronic invoice is given and he has followed corresponding law requirements in electronic invoices. The receipt of payment depends on the agreed payment method. If the payment is done after delivery and it's not in combination with the delivery, then there may be a delay of payment. The supplier has to initiate a corresponding done-in process to get his or her money. First, he or she will send friendly reminders to the customer. Later on, done-in letters. If the customer does not just yet pay, then it comes to lawsuit. So you guys will notice that if the customer doesn't pay after the service has been provided or the goods have been provided, then we're heading to the court. Yeah. So let's quickly look at e-procurement. E-procurement is a synonym for the selling process considered from the point of view of the customer. It is similar to B2C, but now the buying organization is the driver. This organization is the only customer and is looking for many suppliers. Thus, a procurement platform, if we talk about IT system, how an invest of an online shop. Let's look at pricing challenges for e-commerce from the book Introduction to E-commerce. The first pricing strategy is that the supplier sets the prices for his or her products or services. The consumer makes a take it or leave it decision. In the e-commerce world, this leads to lower prices and price dispersions. The problem for the supplier is easy to reduce prices, but it is extremely hard to increase prices. The second pricing strategy is the auction. Here we have a horizontal competition among customers. The customer who offers the highest amount of money gets the product. However, there is a difference to a real life auction if we are in the digital world. There are different end of auction rules, hard ending times, and late minute bidding. The disadvantage for the customer is that the internet auctions runs without physical inspection of goods. Thus, the reputation of the supplier is a fundamental prerequisite for the trust of the customer in such transactions. The third pricing strategy is the individual negotiation between customer and supplier. Let's look at reasons of price dispersion in e-commerce. In the economic theory, there is the law of one price. That means that in an ideal market with identical and total information for every participant's demand and supply, lead to a unique product. But does this work in real markets? Obviously not, which can easily be found out by everybody. And it is also true for markets in the internet. What are the reasons for such price dispersions? First of all, suppliers are not interested in the ideal market with total transparency and full information for everybody. Okay, good to note. And they try to create the impression as if they would offer a unique product or service as well as keeping competitors on distance. The objective of the first approach is that the potential customer stops his or her search process because he or she thinks that he or she has already found the best offer. The objective of the second approach is to exclude customers from the competition so they are not able to offer something adequately to the customer. Let's look at further supply strategies can be found easily. Frustrate customers in searching so they can stop their search process earlier. Pull customers to products with low prices so they think that they favorable prices are representative for the whole program of offered product. Give discounts only for selected products, which shall have the same result as pulling customers to the lower price corner. You can also run short-term promotions, which are unpredictable for competitors. You can also prohibit comparability of prices by including or excluding delivery costs. You can also prohibit comparability of prices by giving different guarantees to the customer. Equally, you can give discounts only for specific delivery options of a product, which shall have the same results as pulling customers to the lower price corner. Focus on brand loyalty and supplier reputation in advertising. Avoid competition between different channels by offering different product variants in different sales channels. Additionally, you can let the customers think that they already have the complete free information. So let's look at the fulfillment challenge for e-commerce business. According to Introduction to E-commerce, the book, real goods cannot be forwarded electronically to the customer. Forwarding agencies and tracking companies are needed. Is this an own function or should it be transferred to a third party that's outsourcing? Does it make sense to think about delivery with drones? That's quite an interesting, thought. Delivering with drones. I think it's pretty interesting. For example, in areas with very low density of population, how much is short-term delivery a competitive advantage? In international transportation, transshipping, plane, train, ship, truck is an issue. Also, piracy and theft have to be mastered. A lot of tax and customs requirements have to be observed. And finally, the export to a foreign country may raise a problem of dual use of goods. Dual use of goods are products and technologies normally used for civilian purposes, but which may have military implications as well. The next question, where the supplier has to find an answer, is whether the customer is at home to take over delivered product. Was an alternative delivery point defined in the order? Can the supplier deliver to a neighbor? Does the customer want this? Can the supplier trust in the neighborhood? How can the delivery be provided in the neighborhood with signs? What can the supplier do if the customer declares that he never got the shipment? That's a good one. What's the supplier gonna do when the customer goes like they didn't get the shipment? What happens? What happens? That's a good question. That's really a good question. Kindly subscribe, like, and follow Value Addition if you're finding this review of the book Introduction to E-commerce valuable. I hope your day is going great. I hope you're doing well. I hope your e-commerce business is really thriving. I hope sales is great. I hope you are doing your best and you're never going to give up no matter what happens in your e-commerce business. Let's look at delivering digital goods. So digital goods can be copied without any damage of the original copy. Thus, the master copy must be protected against unauthorized usage. As an example, let us consider the electronic distribution of software according to the model of SIIA, Software and Information Industry Association. The process runs as follows. The software supplier provides a software product. With specific Parker software, the product is registered at a clearing organization. A unique product identification number, due to a global numbering standard, is generated and the software is transferred to a box of bits in coded form. The box of bits is a specific digital warehouse. The online customer selects the requested software, downloads it from the BOB via the online shop of an e-commerce, pays for the software, and gets a digital key and a license from the clearing organization. Next up, the clearing organization registers the software product, administers key and its distribution and its gateway for the money transfer from customer to bank to. The online merchant has a contract with the software supplier and can order products from the BOB and offers consulting and services to his or her customers. Let's look at the payment challenge in e-commerce according to Introduction to E-commerce. So, the customer relationship management aims at tracking and analyzing of all interactions of the firm with customers to optimize sales volume, customers, customer effectiveness, customer satisfaction, customer loyalty. It integrates all customer oriented processes and considers the customer as a strategic asset. A regular customer is the most profitable customer. Process owner of the CRM process is the supplier. In CRM, there is no force on single transaction but on customer activities in general. Let's look at some typical CRM processes. So, firstly, you process customer request, you inform the customer, you solve problems of the customer, you then conduct repair and service, you manage complaints. With a complaint, we have pre-complaint consideration set, complaint cause and dissatisfaction, e-complaint decision, complainers versus non-complainers, profiling, e-complaint senders, personality, demographics, culture, e-commerce complaint channels, channel choice and publicity. We look at internal e-complaint management system, IT and human element. And we can also look at run customer loyalty improvement programs. So as I said in some of my previous videos and tutorials, you notice that customer loyalty programs are very important. It's very, very important there as an e-commerce shop owner or an e-commerce business owner. You need to ensure that you increase the rate of customer retention. Always put in uh, always put in measures or programs that's going to make your customers keep coming back always. With that, it's going to help you increase sales and all of that. So let's quickly look at B2C software systems. So an online shop is characterized by one supplier and numerous customers. Process and software are under the control of the supplier. Let's look at subsystem or components of an online shop or e-commerce shop. Shop system in a narrow sense, sign-on function, presentation of goods and services, ordering function, payment function, delivery function, and search engine function, editing function, banner management, recommended engine, call center integrations. So these are some of the ways you should keep your online shop. Let me quickly go through it again. Sign on function. You should make sure you have a sign on function so that when people come on your site, when they see your landing page, they're going to see a sign on function where potential customers can sign on, to your e-commerce business. And there's a presentation of goods and services. You have to have a very nice design for the presentation of your goods and services. Try as much as possible to have your product and services description very emotionally positive, so it can connect to your potential customers to convert them into customers who are going to be buying your product and services. And also make sure that you put your shopping cart logo at where they can actually see it, and make it as colorful as possible so that the eyes is going to see it faster and connect to the brain to make a decision to want to buy from you. So you also have to have an ordering function, which is going to be a call to action as to what your customers are supposed to do. Okay. And you also have to have a very good payment function that's gonna, make payments as easy as possible. And also have a delivery function, that's gonna deliver the goods or services or products or services that you are displaying at your e-commerce site or business. And also have a search engine that's going to help for SEO and all of that. So moving forward, let's look at the procurement platform. A procurement platform is a computerized system designed to manage the procurement process. Procurement platforms are often, included in an enterprise resource planning or accounting software product. A typical procurement platform includes purchase requisite, purchase orders, good receipts, and invoice processing. In addition to these core requirements, most systems include an array of reporting tools, built-in approval processes, controls, and fund managers tools, and usually standards in large products. A procurement platform is characterized by suppliers and customers. Process and software are under the control of the customer. So, objectives of the procurement system in e-commerce, as explained in the book Introduction to E-commerce, are: number one, reduction of prices through centralization. That's quantity rebates. Secondly, minimization of procurement costs, mainly in the area of C product, maintenance, repair, and operations. Minimization of warehouse costs, just in time for delivery. Let's look at some functions of a procurement platform in the book Introduction to E-commerce. Functions of a procurement platforms are indent management, e-tendering, e-auctioning, vendor management, catalog management, purchase order integration, order status, ship notice, e-invoicing, e-payment, and contract management. So here at Value Addition, one of our goals is to ensure that we give you tutorials, tips, and strategies that's always gonna really, assist your e-commerce business, your e-commerce shop, your e-commerce site, your e-commerce store, to grow to grow. Okay, so you can increase sales and all of that. Let's quickly look at customer relationship management. So, customer relationship management in e commerce is an approach to manage a company's interaction with current and future customers. The CRM approach tries to analyze data about customers' history with the company in order to improve business relationships with customers, specifically focusing on retaining customers in order to drive sales growth. So, as I was saying, you know, without customers, your e-commerce business is going to struggle. You get what I mean? So having a solid customer relationship management is very important. You can have the best of products, you can have the best of services, but if you don't have a way of, having a good relationship with your customers business wise, with time it's going to be affecting the business, and when it affects the business it's going to affect sales, and that can be a big problem. So customer relationship management is very, very important. So one important aspect of the CRM approach, that's a customer relationship management approach, is that a CRM system compiles information from a range of different channels, including a company's website, a telephone, email, live chat, marketing materials, social media, and more. Through the CRM approach, or through the customer relationship management approach, and the system used to facilitate CRM, business learning more about their target audiences and how to best cater for their needs. A CRM system provides the following functionalities: external interface, web channel, interaction channel, partner channel management. Let's look at a bit of a marketing side of the CRM. Marketing resources management, segmentation and list management, campaign management, real-time offer management, and lead management. Let's look a bit into the sales of the CRM. Sales planning and forecasting, sales performance management, territory management, account and contacts, opportunity management, quotation and order management, pricing and contract, incentive and commission management, time and travel. Let's look at the service part of CRM in e-commerce business: service order management, service contract management, complaints and returns, in-house repair, case management, installed base management, warranty management, resource planning. So what do you guys think so far with the book Introduction to E-commerce? I think it's a very detailed book and I'm loving it. You know me, I like e-commerce and how to assist with lectures and tutorials on how people can grow their e-commerce business. So let's continue. Let's look at B2B business. Let's go. So let's look at the process model and its variant. B2B stands for business to business. In general, business interaction between different organizations is considered B2B e-commerce. And B2B e-commerce can be simplified, or can be simply defined as e-commerce between two business processes cross the boundary of participation organizations. B2B also includes business interactions between sub organizations of big organizations. Big enterprise are often organized a group of different autonomous legal entities. There's no clear limit between inner world and outer world. Somehow, B2B is a synonym for integration and coupling of business processes. Business processes cross boundary of organizations. Thus, the process ownership must be clearly defined and assigned. It should be clear who are the owners of different sub processes and how they have to coordinate their work. So let's look at some differences between B2B and B2C. The primary aspects of B2C businesses are, according to Introduction to E-commerce book, the fundamental pattern is a one-time corporation with a focus on the single transaction. Secondly, each transaction has to be executed as if business partners have never cooperated in the past and will never come together again in the future. Number three, both business partners have to find out whether they want to conduct this transaction or not. Both business partners have to see that they will benefit from this transaction, that it's a win-win situation for everybody. That's what it means. Fourthly, prices have to be allocated for each transaction specifically. And number five, the appropriate payment method has to be selected. All right. So let's look at the primary aspects of B2B business. With B2B, the fundamental pattern is the ongoing cooperation. Business partners have agreed to cooperate for some time. Business partners have concluded, usually in a written contract. Number two, large data quantities are exchanged along the value creation chain. There is an information process coming along with the business process. Number three, for B2B business, different partners with specific objectives have to be coordinated. Number four, all members work together to reach common objectives. Number five, negotiation is in most cases completely done in the initiation phase of the B2B corporation. There is one decision to cooperate for many transactions or a long period of time. The next one, price allocation, is in most cases completely done in the initiation phase of the B2B corporation. And this is usually normal in each single transaction. Payment is in most cases done besides the B2B corporation via traditional payment channels. Often payments are not done for each single transaction in e-commerce, but for a set of transactions, example, on a monthly basis. B2B stands for a specific type of corporation. In most cases, it is agreed between different autonomous firms or other organizations. However, B may even be a single human being if the type of relationship is B2B. Let's look at, a strong B2B relationship in e-commerce. Now we have to consider a specific example of B2B integration where both partners are strongly interconnected. The example is the cooperation of a supplier and a merchant. They have to work like a single homogeneous organization. Number one, common strategic planning. Matching of the merchant sales plan and the supplier's production plan. Supplier gets sales data from merchants. Monitoring of sales data at point of sale or at rack in shop. Optionally, daily sales data. It can come in tomorrow real time. Objective is just in time delivery and just in time production to avoid warehouse and capital lockup. Let's look at common forecasts. between strong B2B relationship, update of cooperative planning, planning of departments, business partners have to collaborate closely to ensure a strong B2B relationship in e-commerce. So tell me what you guys think. I would like to really know your thoughts on this review so far. If you found this review on the book Introduction to E-commerce valuable so far, so kindly leave us a like, kindly leave us a comment, kindly subscribe to Value Addition as we add value your way in terms of your e-commerce business, store, site, or e-commerce shop. So moving forward, let's quickly look at some of the advantages for a supplier. So a supplier gets precise sales data because of the relationship they have with the merchants. Okay, so let's look at some of the advantages the supplier gets because of the relationship he or she has with the merchants. Suppliers gets precise sales data development changing time due to geographic distribution. Secondly, the supplier gets improved production management. Because the merchant is able to give the supplier certain information, the supplier in turn gets improved production management. Thirdly, the supplier gets improved marketing and advertising, reduction or even avoidance of return shipments. On the other side, the merchant also gets reduction of warehouse costs because of the relationship they have with the supplier. Number two, the merchants also saves personal cost, rack management done by supplier or specific service firms paid by the supplier. Also, thirdly, let's look at one of the benefits the merchant gets because of the strong B2B relationship they have with the supplier. Transfer of logistics risk to supplier. Reduction or fourthly, reduction or even avoidance of out of stock situations. Fifthly, renting of storage space to the supplier. Business model of merchant changes. Merchant earns more money with letting of rack space, not longer with sales activities. Sales risk is transferred to the supplier. So tell me, guys, are there some suppliers and some merchants in the family? I trust everybody's doing well and business is going well as well. Okay, well as well. I know, right? So, additionally, in most cases, the merchant is the dominating partner in the B2B relationship between the merchant and the supplier. The balance of power has changed. In former times, the merchant had to ask whether he was allowed to sell the supplier's product. Now, the supplier has to ask whether he or she is allowed to sell his or her product in the merchant's facilities. Additionally, there's also intensified exchange of data, planning data, product and price data, monitoring of logistics activities, monitoring of sales activities, monitoring of rack productivity. There's also shared access to product master data, synchronization of data models, common article identification. Supplier has to think in selling units, not only in production or delivery units. Integrated logistics management, production, delivery to merchants facility, in-shop logistics, rack management. Continuously, there's a function that has shifted between the business partners. We see a strong integration of planning functions, then the logistics chain of the supplier is extended. However, this may be transferred to a third party, example, forwarding agency. The supplier now is responsible for rack management and rack productivity and has to manage the storage racks as micro warehouses. And finally, he or she gets his invoices from the merchant. Let's look a bit into customer relationship management in regards to supply chain management. So we have strategic processes. Under strategic processes, we have review corporate and marketing strategy, identify criteria for categorization customers, provide guidelines for the degree of differentiation in the product or service agreement, develop framework of metrics, develop guidelines for sharing processes, improvements, benefits with customers. Let's quickly look at the operational processes. Differentiate customers, prepare the account or segment management team, review the account internally, identify opportunities with their accounts, develop product or service agreement, measure performance, and generate profitability reports. Let's also look at customer service management in supply chain. So with that, we also have strategic processes, develop customer service strategy, develop response procedures, develop infrastructure for implementing response procedures, develop framework of metrics. Let's look at the operational processes for the customer service management. Recognize events, evaluate situation and alternatives, implement solution, monitor and report. Now let's move on to demand management in supply chain. Strategic process, determine demand management goals and strategy, determine forecasting strategies, plan information flow, determine synchronization procedures, develop contingency management system, develop framework of metrics. Let's look at the operational processes. Collection of data or information. We have forecasting, synchronize, reduce variability and increase flexibility, measure performance. Let's go on to look at order fulfillment in supply chain. Let's look at the strategic processes. Review marketing strategy, supply chain structure, and customer service goals. Define requirements for order fulfillment. Evaluate logistics network. Define plan for order fulfillment. Develop framework of metrics. Let's look at the operational processes. Generate and communicate order, enter order, process order, handle documentation, fill order, deliver order, perform post-delivery activities, and measure performance. Let's quickly look at returns management, strategic processes, determine returns management goals and strategy, develop avoidance, gatekeeping, and disposition guidelines, develop returns network and flow options, develop credit rules, develop secondary markets, develop framework of metrics. Let's look at returns management operational processes. Receive return request, determine routing, receive returns, select disposition, credit consumer or supplier, analyze returns and measure performance. So moving forward, the SCOR has developed a specific business process model which consists of 5 stages and focuses on the supply chain issues. Number one, plan, market forecast, procurement alternatives, manufacturing alternatives, delivery alternatives, supply chain alternatives. Let's look at the source. Materials stage and request, delivery of parts, materials order, materials delivery. Let's look at the make, materials order, product delivery. Let's look at delivery, customer order, delivery of customer order. Let's look at the return or receive product from the customer. A lot of information has to be shared among the supply chain members, which includes inventory levels, sales and data, order status for tracking, sales forecast upstream to suppliers, production or delivery schedule, order information sharing. Let's also look at supply chain management in more details. Supply chain management is also a cross-functional approach that includes managing the movement of raw materials in an organization, certain aspects of the internal processing of materials into finished goods, and the movement of finished goods out of an organization and towards the end customer. As organizations strive to focus on core strength and become more flexible, they reduce their ownership of raw material sources and distribution channels. These functions are increasingly being outsourced to other firms that can perform activities better or more cost effectively. The effect is to increase the number of organizations in satisfying customer demand. As I always say, you know, the customer is very pivotal. The customer is very important in any business, especially in e-commerce. So whatever or whichever step you take as an e-commerce business owner or as an e-commerce shop owner, you should always prioritize your customers because your customers are going to be the biggest determinant to the success of your e-commerce. If you guys have found this tutorial of the review of the book Introduction to E-commerce valuable so far, kindly subscribe, like, and comment. Okay? So let's continue. So the purpose of a supply chain management is to improve trust and collaboration among supply chain partners, thus improving inventory visibility and velocity of inventory movement. Let's quickly look at supply chain management systems usually provided for the following functionalities: demand and supply planning. So, demand planning and forecasting, safety stock planning, supply network planning, distribution planning, service parts planning, procurement, strategic sourcing, purchase order processing, invoicing. When we look at manufacturing, we talk about production planning and detailed scheduling, manufacturing visibility and execution, and collaboration. MRP based details scheduling. When we talk about warehousing, we talk about things like inbound processing and receipt confirmation, outbound processing, and cross docking. We talk about how warehouse and storage, as well as physical inventory. When we talk about order fulfillment, we talk about, or we mean, sales order processing, billing, service parts order fulfillment. We can also talk about transportation, where it involves freight management. Sometimes some of these products and services, you know, easily breakable. So they need to be handled with care, okay, in terms of transportation, moving it from your e-commerce business to your customer. So when we talk about transportation, we talk about freight management, planning and dispatching, rate and billing, and settlement. We talk about the driver. We talk about the asset management and network collaboration. When we can also talk about real world awareness, supply chain event management, auto ID, sensor integration. We can also talk about supply chain visibility, strategic supply chain designs, supply chain analytics, supply chain risk management, sales and opportunities. So we always want to make sure that we provide the best information and the best tips and strategies for our viewers and for our special subscribers. Okay. So we're here to let you know that whatever you're doing, okay, whatever whatever you put your hands to, whatever you spend most of your time doing in terms of productive work, keep on going. You're gonna do great, okay? Keep on going, never give up. Sometimes I know it might look difficult. Sometimes you try, but things don't work the way you want it to work. But trust me, e-commerce, just like many other businesses, there are challenges, you know? But trust me, the moment you don't give up, you keep on working towards your e-commerce business to ensure that things are always running smoothly, you're gonna smile at the end of the day. So no matter how difficult running your e-commerce business is, just keep at it. Okay? Just keep at it. Never give up. All right? Just keep at it. Ensure that you're learning more about your e-commerce. Ensure that you are learning from mistakes, lessons learned, and all of that. And it's gonna make you a stronger person. Okay? Always believe that you can. And trust me, you will. Okay? Never give up on your e-commerce business because trust me, e-commerce is a thriving and a booming business. So having an e-commerce, business that sells specific products or services to a specific group of people is going to make you good money. All right? Keep at it and never give up. So let's continue. So let's talk a little bit about the e-commerce marketplace according to introduction to e-commerce. A digital marketplace is a piece of software with comprehensive e-commerce functionality. It can be characterized by suppliers and customers. Process and software are under control of the market owner. It uses portal technologies and enables the cooperation of different suppliers and different customers. Providing and demanding organizations act autonomously. It is possible that members are at the same time providing and demanding organizations. So marketplaces can be differentiated due to one, type of product or service, two, type of transactions, and three, type of functionalities. Due to the type of product or service, we can consider the following: tradable quantities. Transaction cost must be low according to tradable quantity. Let's look at specifics. A specific product with a low application potential has low market liquidity. Let's also look at complex products. Complex products are not appropriate for electronic trade. Ah, so I've been saying this for a while now. Complex, just like the book says. Wow. Introduction to e-commerce has stated clearly, like I have been saying for some time now in my videos. Complexity of products are not appropriate for electronic trade. That's the sincere truth. The reason why, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, the reason why, you know, selling complex products in electronic trade or in e-commerce not being appropriate is because so many people have so many preferences, okay? So the moment you're selling too many products of too many categories, it makes your e-commerce store very, very saturated. It makes it difficult for people to actually find what they're looking for. But if you're just selling a specific or probably like two specific stuff or few specific stuff, it's going to go a long way to help, okay? So always focus on selling specific products as opposed to selling yourself too thin by selling so many products. It doesn't help when you sell so many products at the same time. Okay? So please and please, 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 please try and sell specific products. All right? Try your very best to sell specific product to ensure that your e-commerce business is increasing sales. That's going to go a long way to help improve your life. So let's continue. Let's look at price components. So with price components, we can talk about material, the things that inform price components. We're looking at the material, we're looking at service, we're looking at production, we're looking at transport. Yeah, when we also looking at your profit margin. Let's quickly look at consequences for the consumer. Contract business or export business. Let's also look at value creation. That reminds me. So, at value addition, we always prioritize value creation. And over here it talks about in value creation, a product, goods needed for the production, and product maintenance, repair, and operation. Due to the type of transaction, we can also look at market liquidity. That's the number of transactions per time unit. We can also look at stage of transaction due to process model. And we can also look at meaning of transaction due to industry and also due to product. We can also quickly look at duration of a transaction with adjustment or without adjustment. We can also look at stability of a contractual relationship. That's a long-term relationship. Changes and proponents, which are in the short or the long term. Let's also quickly look at transaction cost. Sometimes incidental costs are up to 50% of the total cost. Searching, signing of a contract, currency hedging, insurance, external transaction costs by involved third parties. Example, credit card company, internal transaction cost, you know, goes a long way with the processing of your e-commerce business. We can also look at your profit margin. Profit margin, if profit margins are high, the provider will get around marketplaces. If profit margins are low, market already has high transparency. Do we need a marketplace? We do need a marketplace, sir. So let's look at market model. The number of participants, automation does only make sense if the number of participants are high. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with this point? Let's also look at degree of concentration on the customer side, on the supply side. We can also look at degree of globalization, distribution and allocation of power, structure of market, value of transaction, whether it's high or low, number of transaction, whether it's high or low. Do do you know the main functions of digital marketplace? Okay. So according to Introduction to E-commerce, it says that main functions of digital marketplaces are: number one, data management; number two, we are looking at pricing; number three, we are looking at buying; number four, we are looking at sales, that's the order and order management. Next, we're looking at stock exchange. Next, we're looking at transportation. And then next, we're looking at invoicing and payment. Let's look at e-commerce framework. There is a framework for electronic marketplaces. It has been developed since 1994 and 1999 by CommerceNet, an American industry association. Updates have been released with respect to Cobra, Java, XML. This framework has 7 layers. So these are the layers: network, aggregation of different marketplaces is a kind of registry. Market, different actors sorted by industries. Business, definition of a firm, can have different roles, can ask for different products or services, can offer different products or services. Let's look at service. Specific services which can be offered. Example, download a catalog, send an order, or delivery status. Interaction of different companies. Let's look at interaction. With interaction, it talks about communication between business partners. Example, ordering, order confirmation, exception reporting. Let's quickly look at document. Complex document for specific transaction of different data elements. Data element. Basic elements are defined according to specific patterns. So moving forward, operators and initiators of digital marketplaces can be third-party operators, which must be able to cover the capital needs and must have specific industry know-how and experience. Let's move on to consortium of suppliers, which may induce legal issues through implementation of a syndicate. To the next, consortium of customers, which may induce legal problems through implementation of a syndicate. We have next mixed consortium. Next, we have single supplier, which is just an online shop or store. Next, we have single customer, which is just a procurement platform. So here are some specific solutions and services to e-commerce. The B2B environment has led to many different and creative solutions due to the increasing needs of logistics, transportation, warehouse, and distribution, which are offered sometimes by organizations which originally were not logistics experts. So, application service providers offer deployment, hosting, and management of packaged software from a central facility. Example, Oracle and Linkshare. Outsourcing of functions in the process of e-commerce, such as web hosting, security, and customer care solutions, are offered by outsourcing providers such as eShare, NetSales, IXL Enterprises, and Universal Access. Next, let's look at ethics, moral, and technology of e-commerce. So, ethics, sometimes known as moral philosophy, is a branch of philosophy that involves systemization, defending, and recommending concepts of right and wrong conduct, often addressing disputes of moral diversity. Philosophical ethics investigates what is the best way for humans to live and what kinds of actions are right or wrong in a particular circumstance. So, morality is the differentiation of intention, decision, and actions between those that are good and those that are bad. Morality can be a body of standards or principles derived from a code of conduct from a particular philosophy, religion, culture, etc. Or it can be derived from a standard that a person believes should be universal. So moving forward, costs for data storage are still decreasing. Database where detailed profiles of human beings are built and used at acceptable cost. How much can the customer be manipulated? We see an ongoing process in the area of data analysis. Human beings can be considered from different perspectives, and they also will be assessed and valued in a different way. The behavior of humans can be forecasted. What about the free will of customers? So, these are some questions that the introduction to e commerce is asking. So, significant progress is also made in the area of networks and data communication. Data can be transferred and analyzed all over the world. Additionally, international trade is changed enormously by e commerce. E commerce also impacts monetary policy all over. E-commerce is expected to increase competition and reduce search and transactional cost. The net effect will be lowered. In the long run, these lower prices will represent a one-time change in the price level. In the aggregate, firms will face increased pressure to lower prices, but individual industries may avoid price reduction through product differentiation and increased customization. The cost associated with inflation, namely menu cost, the cost of physically changing prices, could be dramatically reduced with e commerce. You just have to educate yourself more about e commerce to keep improving. Here at Value Addition, you know, what we seek to do is to educate and inform, give business owners, e commerce business owners for that, and e-commerce buyers the right information and information that's going to help them improve their e-commerce business to maximize profit, to also increase sales, and then to also, you know, make sure that they are not being they are not doing the wrong thing. Because sometimes you're gonna see so much information and you don't even know how to, you know, go about it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna recommend this book. That's Introduction to E-commerce by Martin Kütz. It's a very good book. I'm really gonna recommend it to a lot of people. So as I always keep saying, never give up on your dreams, okay? You are gonna do great. Keep pushing. Keep pushing, okay? Keep pushing. Sometimes things can get challenging. It comes with every business. Okay. Always keep your e-commerce up and running. Always keep it up and running because the world is moving from the analog phase and entering into the digital phase. So it's always a necessity to focus on things that bring you profit. Like I keep saying, e-commerce is a good industry that if you educate yourself on a daily basis or on a regular basis on how to improve your e-commerce business, it's going to go a long way to help you improve on your life. E-commerce is not so easy, but it is doable. A lot of people have done it. People have been successful with e-commerce, okay? So let's always keep our head up. Don't look down on yourself. Okay? Never look down on yourself. Always believe you can do it. Always believe you can do it. Always believe your e-commerce business is going to thrive. Sometimes you might not get the number of sales you wish to, but keep on keeping at it. Whatever it is, sometimes you need to be checking, okay, so what am I doing right? You need to be constantly checking, what am I doing right, or what am I doing wrong with regards to my e-commerce business. You know, we need to always do that. We need to, assess ourselves to know what we are doing right or to know what we are doing wrong in our e-commerce business. Let's always keep our focus laser sharp. Let's keeping at it, okay? And our e-commerce business is going to thrive, all right? As I always say, never give up on anything passionate, including your e-commerce business or your e-commerce store or your e-commerce site or your e-commerce shop, okay? Never give up. If e-commerce is your passion, keep at it, okay? If e-commerce is something you're interested in, like I am, like Michaela is, as we stated early on in the review, you know, e-commerce is a way to go. E-commerce is the future of trade, is the future of buying and selling, is the future of goods and services, is the future, okay? So always see what you're doing right. Always take note of what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong with your e-commerce business. It's very necessary so you can know whether you're progressing or you're retrogressing. You're going to do great, okay? I believe you will. So I'm going to recommend Introduction to E-commerce by Martin Kütz. It's a very good read. And as you notice from the video, it gives very, you know, very detailed stuff about e-commerce. I like that. It really gives much details about e-commerce. So I'm going to recommend it to anybody who wants to increase sales in their e-commerce, wants to know more details about e-commerce, you know, they want to improve their e-commerce business. I'm going to recommend this book to them. It's a good read. Go get the PDF copy, or you can actually get the book itself. It's a great book in terms of e-commerce details and things you need to do. Okay, so let me quickly go over the content again. So the book talks about the basics and definitions in terms of e-commerce. It talks about e-commerce frameworks and architectures. It talks about B2C e-commerce business. It talks about B2B e-commerce business. It also talks about the impact of e-commerce on society. It talks about the security and compliance management of e-commerce. It also talks about electronic payment in e-commerce. It equally talks about performance management. And last but not least, it talks about advices for e-commerce business owners. So I'm going to recommend this book, all right? It's a good read. Go grab your copy or go grab the PDF copy and maximize the potential of your e-commerce business. Keep your head up and keep going. Your e-commerce business is going to succeed because you will always make sure you maximize your profit, your learning, your skills, and everything important to move from stage one to stage two and move from stage two to stage three in your e-commerce business. I trust you. I believe you. Go do well for yourself. Go be great. All right. So if you believe this review of Introduction to E-commerce, the book, has been valuable to you, was valuable to you, kindly subscribe, share, like, and kindly let us know what your takes are on this review. Kindly check out some great e-commerce videos on value addition as well. 5 important things to consider before starting your e-commerce business. You can also check out top e-commerce software platforms for 2022. You can equally check out how Amazon became number one in e-commerce. You can also check out 5 steps in creating an e-commerce funnel. Moving forward, you can also check out 5 tips to writing the best e-commerce product description. You can also kindly check out 5 ways to reduce your abandoned cart in your e-commerce business. You can also check out respectfully 4 reasons why WooCommerce is a good e-commerce software. And you can also check out this is why you should give Magento's e-commerce software a try. You can also check out what to expect on Marketo's e-commerce platform, and you can also check out on value addition. This is how Walmart is helping the e-commerce industry. So value addition is here to give you the best of e-commerce tutorial tips and strategies that would help you to maximize your e-commerce business. We are grateful for your time. Have a great time. Enjoy life. All the best with your e-commerce business. Take care. From we at Value Addition, we say thank you and have a good one. Cheers.